I have a spacious room that's about 300 square feet wide.
My parasite of a sister-in-law gets the tiny 50-square-foot storage room.
As I was unpacking after moving into my newly built house, my mother-in-law, Carol, and my sister-in-law, Mia, showed up. It seemed like they planned to live here. But what were they even talking about? Wait, whose house are you talking about? What? Mia looked shocked by my question, but there were far more surprises coming for her. All of this was part of my plan. Carol and Mia would pay for tormenting my husband, Ryan. The only path left for them was one of ruin. My name is Emily Taggart. I just celebrated my 30th birthday yesterday. Ryan, my husband, who is 5 years older than me, gave me a pair of rings I had always admired as a gift. I should have been on cloud 9. But that night, he told me he wanted a divorce. Going from heaven to hell. This must be what people mean when they say that. Ryan and I have been married for 1 year, and we don't have children yet. I thought that someday we'd have kids and that this happiness would last forever. 2 years ago, I fell head over heels for Ryan at first sight and pursued him relentlessly until we finally made it to marriage. I work as a freelancer, and Ryan was the representative for one of my clients. The previous representative took advantage of their position, constantly making unreasonable demands with an arrogant attitude. As someone dependent on their work, I had to swallow my pride countless times, though I can't even count how many times I almost snapped. How anyone could put up with that person for 5 years is beyond me. So I thought God must have sent Ryan to me as a reward. Ryan, my new representative, was in an important position at just 30-something, but he wasn't the least bit arrogant. He worked efficiently, and his instructions were always spot on. He was always so considerate of me, to the point that it almost felt humbling. And that boyish smile of his completely captivated me. Because his predecessor had been the worst, Ryan shone all the brighter to me. I have nothing but disdain for people who use their position to boss others around or make unreasonable demands. Little did I know back then that Ryan's mother, Carol, and his sister, Mia, were exactly that type of person. Because they were his family, Ryan couldn't cut ties with them, and they continued to take advantage of him. As soon as I met Ryan, I invited him out for a meal, quickly building a relationship where we could meet in private. When he finally said, "I love you," I felt like I was walking on air. But the moment we started talking about marriage, Ryan suddenly became hesitant. And I soon realized that Ryan's hesitation was because of his family circumstances. His parents had divorced when he was young, and Carol had raised both him and Mia on her own. Ryan had only recently finished paying off his student loans and was still financially supporting his family, which made marriage seem difficult for him.
I don't want my family situation to cause trouble for you, Emily.
Ryan's confession left me feeling a bit deflated. I had been worried that he might already be married or have someone else in his life. Well, the condo you're living in is owned, right? If we split the living expenses, I don't see a problem. You can use the rest of your money however you like.
Wait, does that mean I can actually marry you?
His boyish, innocent smile in that moment is something I'll never forget. I was fully capable of supporting myself, so his concerns weren't obstacles I couldn't overcome. In fact, I was confident I could clear them effortlessly. At the time, I thought lightly of it, but reality turned out to be far different. Following Ryan's wishes, we registered our marriage first and then planned to visit his family for introductions. When I asked, should we meet them before registering the marriage? Ryan, wearing an unusually serious expression, replied, "It's fine this way."
My mom and Mia have always relied on me. If I tell them I'm getting married, they might feel uneasy. No matter what they say, I'll protect you.
Ryan's words heightened my nervousness. Still, I believed his mother, who raised him on her own, must be an incredible person. And as an only child, I was genuinely excited at the idea of gaining a sister. However, those hopes were spectacularly crushed.
I'm against it.
So am I.
At Ryan's family home, not even tea was offered before Carol and Mia hit me with their initial blow.
I told you, if you're getting married, it has to be to the daughter of a wealthy family or a company executive.
Emily is an accomplished entrepreneur who started her own business.
SIL, huh?
Well, technically, yes, but it's just me working from home. In reality, I was in the process of building an office and had already decided to hire remote contractors as employees, but mentioning that felt too annoying to bother with. So I simply explained my current situation honestly.
No way. Absolutely not.
A CEO with no employees? That's so lame.
I'm the type of person who stands my ground and doesn't back down from a fight, but this time I decided to hold back for Ryan's sake. Carol and Mia's overbearing attitude reminded me of my previous client representative. But in that moment, I was genuinely grateful for the resilience I had gained from dealing with him. It had taught me to endure. Without that experience, I might have lashed out by now. True to his promise, Ryan stepped in to defend me.
Emily's business is stable, and the condo we're living in is a home she worked hard to buy on her own.
Well, I guess she's somewhat useful.
But what happens if she has kids? She'll just leech off Ryan. Unless you can guarantee that our financial support won't decrease, divorce her.
Freelancing is so unstable. You're obviously planning to leech off my reliable brother. Divorce is the only option for me too.
Who's really the parasite here, I wonder? They clearly had no intention of celebrating Ryan's happiness, not even a little.
If we get divorced right after registering the marriage, it'll hurt my reputation at work. That could lead to a salary cut, and the financial support you get would decrease too.
That would be a problem. If anything, we need you to increase it. Fine, the divorce can wait for about a year. But in the meantime, you'll keep sending the same $3,000 every month.
Hearing $3,000 shocked me. I had assumed it would be at most $1,000. It's no wonder Ryan hesitated about getting married. Before the visit, Ryan had said, "It's fine this way." Now I fully understood what he meant. If we had followed the proper steps, we likely wouldn't have been able to get married at all. Since then, Ryan has apologized to me countless times, but my complicated feelings remain unresolved. The phrase toxic parent kept running through my mind.
As long as I keep sending them money, they won't say anything else or ask to see us again.
If Ryan is okay with that, I guess it's fine. But part of me still wonders if something can be done. Carol is 60 years old and Mia is 28. Both are perfectly capable of working, but that doesn't seem to be an option for them. Their family home is an old single-family house, but every appliance, piece of furniture, and accessory they own is high-end, which doesn't sit well with me. No matter how grateful Ryan is for being raised by his mom or how much responsibility he feels as the eldest son, is it really necessary for him to go this far?
My parents divorced because of me. That's why I feel responsible.
When Ryan was just 5 years old and in kindergarten, he would often come home to find his uncle at their house. This uncle was the husband of Carol's sister, Rachel. When Ryan mentioned this to his father, it ultimately led to his parents' divorce. This happened shortly after Mia was born, but Ryan's father was resolute. He left the house to them but abandoned the family entirely. What's more, Rachel and her husband also ended up divorcing, and Carol was disowned by her own family. Could it be? I had a gut feeling about what might have happened, but I kept my mouth shut. No matter what, she was still Ryan's mother, and I couldn't speak poorly of her based on speculation. Carol tried to defend herself, claiming, "I was only consulting with your uncle because I was worried about my husband's infidelity, but the damage was done, and nothing could change the outcome." From then on, Carol and Mia took out their frustrations on Ryan.
This is all your fault. If you hadn't said anything, we wouldn't have gotten divorced. Now we're left with no alimony or child support. It's all because of you.
You stole my dad away from me, Ryan. It's all your fault.
Day after day, Ryan grew up hearing these words from Carol and Mia. Thinking about how young Ryan must have endured their constant blame and how much pain he must have felt squeezed my heart. Starting in high school, Ryan began working part-time jobs, and from then on, he was exploited by them every step of the way.
Even though I'm being so selfish, you still don't hate me, Emily. Thank you.
When Ryan says things like that, it makes me want to help him even more. Ryan hasn't done anything wrong. More than the money, I want to free him from the burden of guilt he still carries. No matter how much I try to reason with him, he remains fixated on. It's all my fault. The years of conditioning he's endured won't be undone so easily. Would things really remain peaceful if we just kept sending the money, as Ryan says? As I wrestled with this dilemma, our life together was still happy, and a year was about to pass. One day, an incident occurred. Carol and Mia showed up at our condo.
Oh my, this place is much more luxurious and stylish than I imagined. It passes. Let's make this our house.
What? I've gotten engaged to the son of a wealthy landowner, but it's embarrassing to use that old rundown house, so I want to borrow this place for one day as our home for the meeting between both families.
For a moment, I felt relieved that it wasn't something worse, but it still didn't sit right with me.
As I've said before, this is Emily's house.
So what? What's hers is yours, and what's yours is ours. What's wrong with using our son's things freely?
Once again, I was reminded that common sense simply doesn't apply to these people.
Mia is so much more capable than Ryan. At least she managed to snag herself a rich man's son.
When he suddenly confessed he'd fallen in love with me at first sight, I was so shocked. And then when I found out he was super rich, I was doubly surprised. I guess it's all thanks to my good karma. Mom, now we can live the rest of our lives in luxury.
As if they hadn't already been living a life of leisure, they had the nerve to say that. Mia isn't particularly beautiful, and she has the same full-figured build as her mother. On top of that, her flashy outfits only make her stand out in the worst ways. For a man to fall in love with someone like Mia at first sight, he must have some very niche preferences. I can't begin to understand the logic of the wealthy. But if this engagement goes through, could it mean Ryan would finally be freed from them? Fine, you can use it, but just for one day. When I agreed, the two of them left in high spirits. Ryan kept bowing his head in apology, but I felt a twinge of guilt because I had a sly plan of my own. Sometimes Ryan has a somber look on his face, but if this plan works out, I'll be able to bring more smiles to him. The day of the family meeting happened to be my birthday, so Ryan and I went out on a date. Although I was a little worried about leaving the house to Carol and Mia, I felt reassured because my new office and home, which was under construction, had just been completed. All our important belongings had already been moved there. That day, we splurged on a luxurious lunch, and Ryan gave me the pair of rings I had always dreamed of. Last month, for Ryan's birthday, I had given him the same ring, and we spent a blissful moment admiring our matching rings on our hands. When we returned home in the evening, Carol and Mia were in high spirits, making it clear that the family meeting had gone well.
The family said you can really tell a person's character from the home they live in, and they praised the great sense of style.
If that's the case, then they were praising my character. While I was quietly happy that things seemed to be heading in a positive direction, Carol suddenly said something outrageous.
I've decided I'm going to live here. After all, it's supposed to be Mia's family home, right? It wouldn't make sense if I wasn't living here. Plus, it's close to the station and has such a lovely view. I really like it.
I've decided I'll get married from this house too.
While Carol and Mia were excitedly assigning rooms to themselves, I decided to pour cold water on their plans. This house already has a new buyer lined up. We'll be moving out next month. Under normal circumstances, I would never have given people like them this address, let alone let them use the house. The only reason I allowed it was because we were planning to let go of the property anyway. Carol, momentarily shocked, quickly began firing off questions.
Where's the new house? What's the layout? The location? It's better than this one, right?
It better not be a house that embarrasses me.
With their snorting demands growing louder, Ryan calmly asked a question.
Don't tell me you're planning to live with us in the new house.
Of course we are. You said you're selling this place, so obviously we'll be moving in with you.
You already have a house, so why not just be honest about it? Sure, it's old, but there's nothing to be ashamed of.
He was right. Their family home, a single-story house Ryan's father inherited from his parents, was indeed old and not in a great location. Even if they sold it, it probably wouldn't fetch enough to buy even a modest condo. This is a designer condo conveniently located near the station. This flashy, image-conscious mother and daughter were absolutely smitten with it. And now they were imagining that our new house must be even more impressive, only to be met with Ryan's suggestion.
Do you really have the right to say that to Ryan, who ruined the plans to renovate the house after Mia was born? And now you're trying to sabotage Mia's engagement too.
How could you, Ryan? I've put up with so much all this time. I'm absolutely moving into the new house. This is your duty, your way of making amends.
Ryan must have endured these kinds of accusations for a long time. I couldn't forgive Carol and Mia, but I chose to remain silent. If I got into an argument with them, it would only make things harder for Ryan. For years, he had borne the weight of guilt, and now it must have been tearing him apart to balance that with his desire to protect me.
For now, I need you to leave. We're expecting guests later. I promise I'll get back to you soon.
Of course, there were no guests coming. It was a lie Ryan made up on the spot. Reluctantly, Carol and Mia left, but not without insisting, "Make sure you call us." In the now quiet room, Ryan spoke to me.
Let's get divorced.
Ryan's unexpected words left me so stunned that I couldn't help but ask again.
I don't want to cause you any more trouble, Emily. As long as my mom and Mia are around, this will just keep happening. And the truth is, this is all my fault. I forgot that I'm someone who should never have gotten married in the first place.
With tears streaming down his face, Ryan said that divorcing me was the only way he could protect me. I'm fine. The thought of separating from you is far more painful than this. There has to be a way, and we'll figure it out together. Despite my words, Ryan shook his head. He explained that he'd had girlfriends and even a fiancé before, but each one had been driven away. Carol and Mia couldn't stand the idea of him spending even a penny on another woman. Because of his past experiences, Ryan's resolve was unyielding.
I always thought something like this might happen, so I prepared for it.
With that, Ryan handed me a divorce form, already filled out. If Ryan truly hated me, I might have been able to accept it. But under these circumstances, there was no way I could bring myself to sign it. Still, it was clear Ryan had been mentally preparing for this for a long time, and changing his mind wouldn't be easy. Then give me some time. At least until we move. Just 1 more month. That's all the time we had left. 1 month. The real issue isn't what to do about Carol and Mia. It's breaking Ryan free from their brainwashing first. Ruining them can come afterward. From what Ryan has told me, it's clear that Carol brought her situation as a single mother upon herself. But I doubt pointing that out would open Ryan's eyes. He still believes Carol's words. We were abandoned because of the baseless suspicion you caused, Ryan. I considered forcing him to cut ties with them, but even then, Ryan would likely continue sending them money out of guilt. And Carol and Mia would exploit that guilt to keep draining him for the rest of his life. That's not the outcome I want. I researched everything I could about toxic parents and brainwashing, and it seems the key lies in Ryan's own will. And that's precisely what makes it so difficult. As the time limit crept closer without any clear solution, I grew increasingly anxious. Then, unexpectedly, I received a hint from someone I hadn't anticipated, and it was as if a light had pierced through the darkness. The time had come to save Ryan and drag those two into the hell they deserved. A month later, as I was unpacking in my newly built house, I heard familiar voices.
I have a spacious 300 square foot room.
The parasite of a wife gets the 50 square foot storage room.
It was Carol and Mia. They must have found out about this place through some means. Mia, already acting as if she was going to live here, was met with my pointed question. Wait, whose house are you talking about?
What?
There's no 300 square foot room here, and no 50 square foot storage room either. As Mia attempted to head upstairs, I quickly stopped her. This is my office. The second floor is a storage area with important items, so please don't wander around.
An office? As in a company? But you don't even have any employees.
If you must know, the employees will start coming in next week, so rest assured. Mia looked frustrated, as if her plans had fallen apart, but Carol's reaction was different.
Wait, does that mean your company is actually profitable?
Well, between that and the money from selling the condo, I was able to buy this place outright in cash. Before I met Ryan, I worked tirelessly without taking a break. I had people I could call boyfriends, but I never met anyone who captivated me more than my work, and looking back, I might have been harsh and uptight at the time. It was Ryan who changed me. Just seeing his smile healed me and made me feel kind and gentle. Thanks to him, my work thrived, and I was able to establish my office sooner than I had planned. Knowing my financial situation, I wondered if they would try to demand that I buy them a condo.
Then why don't you just hire us here?
Carol said, taking a turn far beyond what I had anticipated.
Oh yes, give us executive positions. A salary of $10,000 a month should be fine.
You're brilliant, Mom. That's a great idea. I'll only need it until I get married.
Until now, I had held back to support Ryan, but I figured it was time to finally show my true colors. If you can do work that's worth a $10,000 salary, I'll set it up immediately.
Well, you know, family perks. These things happen all the time, right? Just put our names on the roster and make sure the paychecks keep coming. No need to get all stiff about it.
Ryan and I are divorced, so what exactly do you mean by family perks?
What?
Carol's creepy smirk vanished in an instant. replaced by a look of shock.
Divorced? What are you talking about?
When I visited your home a year ago, you were the one who said it yourself. The divorce will be in about a year, remember?
No, that's not acceptable. You need to get back together immediately. Things are different now than they were back then.
Carol, practically spitting as she yelled, seemed desperate. Beside her, Mia was deep in thought. She probably figured she wouldn't be as affected since she was about to marry into wealth. Then she asked something unexpected.
Hey, so where's the house with the 300 square foot room?
And where did you even hear about that? Also, how did you find this place?
Well, I heard you were moving, but I couldn't get in touch with my brother. So, I started waiting outside the condo every day and secretly followed you.
Must be nice to have so much free time. Apparently, Mia had been tailing me to discover this office's location.
Then I overheard you talking to someone on the phone. You mentioned that the biggest room in the new house is 300 square feet, so I just assumed that room must be in this house.
Oh, that. I knew you were tailing me. I just didn't think you were eavesdropping on my calls. But you've completely misunderstood.
Then whose house were you talking about?
That would be my new house, though I'm just moving in with someone else.
Carol and Mia were both taken aback by Ryan's sudden appearance.
Ryan, I was so worried since I couldn't reach you. What are you doing here today?
Ryan's so kind. He must be here to celebrate his ex-wife's move. I heard about the divorce. If you're living with someone, does that mean you're getting remarried?
We can live there too, right? I'll take the 300 square foot room.
Who knows? The person I'm moving in with will be here soon. You could always ask them.
Everyone's eyes turned to the front door at once. Carol took a step back, visibly shaken.
What are you doing here?
It's all thanks to Emily. She reunited me with the son I thought I'd never see again and gave me the chance to finally bring you to justice.
What? You're my father?
Carol's heavily made-up face made it hard to tell, but I was certain her real expression had turned pale. This was where the real show began.
What do you mean thanks to her? What did she do?
I tracked down Ryan's father. Ryan needed to know the truth if he was ever going to wake up. While I was at my wit's end trying to find a way to avoid divorcing Ryan, I ended up crossing paths with that awful former client. At the time, I thought, great, just what I needed when I'm already feeling terrible. But then he started venting to me. He said that complaints about his overbearing attitude had piled up from clients, leading to his demotion. I thought, serves him right. But he ended up giving me the biggest hint.
The company only listened to the client's side of the story and made their decision. It's so unfair. They should have heard both sides before judging.
That's it, I realized. That's the key. Why hadn't I realized something so simple sooner? This man had only ever caused me trouble, but for the first time, he actually did something useful. I hired a private investigator to find Ryan's father so I could hear his side of the story. Once the report came back, it didn't take long to arrange a meeting with Ryan's father, Matthew. Their reunion, after 30 years of misunderstanding, was nothing short of moving.
Well, no, that's not it. It's different.
Carol could only stammer, repeating and well as she tried to explain herself. Ryan and Matthew were standing together. That alone must have been enough to deal a significant blow. And rightfully so. Carol had been feeding Ryan lies.
Your father left us because he started a new family with another woman.
But she had also lied to Matthew.
Ryan said he never wants to see the father who abandoned his mother.
During the divorce, Matthew fought desperately to gain custody of Ryan, but the family court ultimately ruled in favor of the mother. Matthew, who was adamantly denied visitation rights by Carol, visited the house just once in an attempt to see Ryan. At that time, Ryan was likely emotionally unstable due to his parents' divorce and the guilt he carried. The moment he saw Matthew's face, he ran away. That was the last time Matthew ever saw Ryan.
I've finally woken up. You really kept me fooled for 30 years, didn't you? I loved my dad so much. That's why I was devastated when I thought he had abandoned us. And on top of that, I blamed myself, thinking it was all my fault.
In your version of events, I supposedly remarried. But the truth is, I stayed single all these years, dreaming of the day I could live with Ryan again.
Well, I just thought saying that would help Ryan move on more easily. Yes, it was all for Ryan, my beloved son.
Then why is it that your so-called beloved son had to put himself through college with student loans and has been forced to support you ever since?
Carol couldn't answer the question and continued sweating profusely. For Ryan's sake, Matthew had done everything he could, depositing $3,000 in child support every month. On top of that, he sent large sums whenever Ryan advanced in school. As proof of his connection to Ryan, Matthew had kept all the bank books. He slammed them onto the table with force.
Take a good look. What did you use all this money for?
What Carol said next was utterly astonishing.
Well, you never paid me alimony, did you?
At this, even I, Matthew, and Ryan couldn't help but laugh bitterly.
Alimony is something paid by the party at fault. In other words, you, the one who was unfaithful, should have been the one paying it. I chose not to demand it, thinking of Ryan's future.
You got $3,000 a month from Dad, and when that stopped after I graduated college, you turned to me and made me send you $3,000 a month instead. Nice system you've got there.
But there's one thing I'm grateful to you for. Not being able to see Ryan pushed me to throw myself into my work, and now I've climbed the ranks to become an executive.
Then I guess I should be grateful too. Pushing myself at work to meet the tough monthly support demands made me the fastest to climb the ladder among my peers.
While Matthew and Ryan laughed, Carol trembled, her face twisted as if it were the end of the world. Suddenly, Mia spoke up.
Dad, I've always wanted to meet you. You live in a big house, don't you? Since I'm your daughter, I can live with you, right?
It's true that I bought a big house so I could welcome Ryan home whenever he was ready. But I won't be taking you in.
Why are you favoring him? Even if we haven't lived together, I'm still your daughter too.
She's your daughter too. How could you be so cruel?
Carol, who had remained silent until now, spoke up to defend Mia. But Matthew's sharp words stopped her cold. You're too young to be losing your memory, Carol. Don't even think about claiming you've forgotten. At this, Carol suddenly shrank back, visibly intimidated.
Everyone here is an adult, so I think it's fine to say this. That daughter isn't mine. A DNA test confirmed it. If you want the full story, ask your mother.
What?
Mia turned to Carol, but Carol simply looked down, avoiding her gaze.
It's okay. It just means Mom was that much of a catch, right? And besides, Mom has always done everything for me.
Thank you, Mia. And I'll keep doing anything for you, no matter what.
As expected, they really were two peas in a pod.
Fine, whatever. I'm about to marry into wealth, so I'll live the richest life ever. one that'll make all of you jealous.
And can I count on you to take care of me too?
Of course, together we'll show them all up.
That might not be possible. At my words, Carol and Mia shot me fierce, hostile glares. I know your fiance is the son of a wealthy landowner, but did you know that the entire family is ridiculously cheap? Also, he's been married 3 times before. Apparently, he's so tight-fisted that all of his wives ran off.
That's a lie. It's all a lie. You're just saying that because you're jealous. Don't make up strange stories.
While Mia's words were strong, it was clear she was shaken. She must have realized there was some truth to what I was saying. Well, you'll find out sooner or later. The reason they've built up such wealth is because they've been extremely frugal for generations. The house is a mansion, and the garden is huge, but their lifestyle is apparently stuck in pre-war times.
And even if that's true, why would you know such a thing?
Aunt Rachel is friends with your mother-in-law and went to school with her. They're close. She was looking for a wife for her son, so she mentioned you. In truth, this was part of the revenge from Carol's sister, Aunt Rachel. To confirm that the truth held up, I had visited not only Matthew, but also Aunt Rachel. She had been undergoing fertility treatments due to her infertility, but she divorced because she couldn't forgive her husband's betrayal. Moreover, Aunt Rachel's anger was immeasurable, knowing that her own sister became pregnant with her husband's child while she was undergoing fertility treatments. Aunt Rachel's husband had amassed debts, and he paid the outrageous alimony demanded of him. Afterward, he disappeared without a trace. This aligned with Matthew's story, and while I apologized for bringing up such a painful past, she told me, "I'm actually glad to have gotten my revenge." She then added, "I was the one who orchestrated Mia's marriage." She had taken advantage of Mia's flashy, image-conscious nature. Mia's fiance's family was simply looking for a free, live-in housekeeper and caregiver disguised as a wife. He had been told that he would inherit nothing unless he married, so he didn't care who he ended up with. He had been advised by Aunt Rachel to approach Mia under the guise of coincidence, and sure enough, Mia fell right into the trap, which worked out perfectly for him. Since I had Aunt Rachel's permission, I exposed everything.
Well, living in that rundown house would be 100 times better.
Why is that woman so obsessed just because she lost her husband? We'll have to endure it in that house for now. Mia, now it's time for you to focus on finding your husband. You'll find a good one in no time.
It seemed like working was never even considered as an option. At this point, Matthew delivered the final blow.
Oh, and about that house. Since it's still in my name, I'm asking you to leave.
Are you seriously taking the house from us too?
I've been letting you live there out of my goodwill. You should be grateful.
You've climbed the ranks and are making plenty of money, right? Then why should you care about that old remote house?
At that, Matthew grinned slyly.
Actually, that whole area is set to be redeveloped. They've already offered millions for it.
What?
The redevelopment had been rumored for years, but it was said to take decades. However, Matthew, being well connected, had known it was coming. While Matthew had let them live in the house for Ryan's sake, he had been waiting for this moment.
I thought it would be a great way to get back at you, kicking you out at just the right time to make a huge profit. It's all going exactly as I planned. Oh, and by the way, I want you to pay back the child support you misused.
Well, I'm in the same situation. I was tricked with a convenient made-up story and had money taken from me.
That doesn't count. There's no promissory note, so it's invalid. I don't owe you anything, and I have no intention of paying.
Carol returned to her usual defiant attitude, but it only lasted a moment.
There are people out there who'll collect money from you, even without a promissory note. I've worked with all sorts of people to get to where I am now.
What?
For now, I've sent a buyer to the house. Let's just say it's a partial repayment. The rest will depend on how we feel.
Matthew's story was a fabrication, but Carol seemed to believe it completely. Suddenly, she turned her anger toward me.
If you hadn't interfered, we'd have been fine. It's all your fault. You got divorced from Ryan, and yet you're still sticking your nose in. You're not even his wife.
I may have divorced Emily, but I'm getting remarried soon. If we kept going like this, both Emily and I would end up carrying Mom's last name. That's why I divorced her and officially joined my father's family register. Now, at last, I've cut off that troublesome connection.
That's what it is. Others might think it's foolish, but as long as I can be with Ryan, that's all that matters to me. Even so, Carol seemed to hate me so much that she suddenly lunged at me.
How can you be happy when you've destroyed my happiness?
Filled with all the resentment I had held for so long, I slapped Carol with all my strength. She flew back quite dramatically, and I was even surprised myself. As Carol held her face in shock, I sneered at her. You should suffer the same pain Ryan went through for the rest of your life. If you do anything to him again, it won't end like this. Carol screamed and, along with Mia, hurriedly ran off, as if escaping. She was actually not as tough as she acted. Maybe I should have done this from the start. However, I quickly realized that it was bad for Ryan and Matthew to have seen me like that.
Wow, that was really reassuring. It felt so satisfying.
I'll follow Emily for the rest of my life.
As they said that, I pretended not to hear them whispering, trying not to upset me. Later, the household items and brand goods from Carol's family home were taken by a buyer sent by Matthew, and he used part of the proceeds to pay Ryan. They probably won't be able to repay anything in the future, but it seems that Matthew and Ryan both think they should live in fear of their debts. That shows how deep their resentment runs. Matthew officially sold Carol's family home, and Carol and Mia had to move out. With no money and no home, Mia had no choice but to marry, and Carol went with her. It seems that they had some small hope that they might live a life of luxury, but I guess it turned out just as I told them. Aunt Rachel was invited to a memorial service, and when she met them after a long time, she said they looked like completely different people. They had aged terribly. I guess the diet worked well for you, she remarked sarcastically, and Carol, still able to muster the energy, glared back at her. Since they didn't even have dowries, it seems they're being worked to the bone by their mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law. Mia's new home is connected to many relatives and acquaintances, so with frequent family events, Aunt Rachel will keep updating me on them. A year later, Ryan and I officially remarried. We now live on the second floor of the office. I told Mia that the second floor was just a storage room, but it's actually a 3-bedroom apartment. Ryan now pays for the living expenses, saying it's his responsibility as a man. Matthew's house is nearby, and we often have dinner together in the evenings. Ryan and Matthew have grown very close, as if they are trying to make up for lost time. Ryan no longer has those dark expressions, and seeing him smile all the time truly makes me happy. Matthew is always so kind to me, putting me first. Ryan is the same. Both of them say that without meeting me, they wouldn't have such happy days. But I feel that I should be the one grateful. In the end, this must be a gift from God.